Iran's geopolitical moves have put it at the center of international debates, shaping the balance of power in the Middle East and beyond. With tensions escalating and stakes higher than ever, what's next in this high-stakes chess game? To understand what lies ahead, we need to first examine the backdrop. Iran has been a focal point in global politics for decades, but recent developments, like the collapse of nuclear deal negotiations and intensifying sanctions, have reignited international concerns. Iran's strategic location, massive oil reserves, and influence over key waterways like the Strait of Hormuz make it a critical player. Any shift in its policies impacts not just its neighbors, but also global trade and security. At the heart of this geopolitical standoff are several major players. The United States has long been Iran's primary adversary, pushing for sanctions and exerting military pressure in the region. Saudi Arabia and Israel, both regional powers, share common ground in countering Iran's influence. Meanwhile, China and Russia are strengthening their ties with Tehran, challenging Western dominance. Each player has its own agenda. The US aims to maintain dominance, Saudi Arabia wants to curb Iran's influence in the Gulf, and Israel is focused on preventing Tehran from acquiring nuclear capabilities. On the other hand, China seeks energy security, while Russia views Iran as a strategic partner in countering Western influence. Recent events have further complicated the situation. In 2022, the US reimposed heavy sanctions on Iran, crippling its economy. The nuclear deal remains in limbo, with no clear resolution in sight. Iran's responses have been equally provocative, ramping up uranium enrichment, seizing oil tankers in the Gulf, and engaging in proxy conflicts through its allies in Yemen, Iraq, and Syria. These moves signal Tehran's willingness to push back against Western pressure. The heated debates at international forums highlight the deep divisions over how to handle Iran. While some advocate diplomacy, others warn that time is running out to contain Tehran's ambitions. Think of the Middle East as a chessboard where Iran is strategically positioned. Its influence extends through proxies like Hezbollah in Lebanon, militias in Iraq, and the Houthis in Yemen. This gives it leverage to counter its adversaries indirectly. Economically, Iran is bypassing sanctions by deepening trade ties with China and utilizing shadow fleets to export oil. Militarily, it has invested heavily in drones and missiles, giving it a strategic edge in asymmetric warfare. However, this strategy is not without risks. Iran's assertiveness has led to heightened tensions with its neighbors and isolated it further on the global stage. What lies ahead? 3 potential scenarios dominate the conversation. Scenario 1, a return to diplomacy. Renewed negotiations on the nuclear deal could ease tensions and unlock economic opportunities for Iran. However, this requires significant compromises from both Iran and the West, something that seems unlikely given current rhetoric. Scenario 2, a prolonged stalemate. This would mean continued sanctions, regional skirmishes, and proxy conflicts. While manageable in the short term, it risks spiraling into a larger conflict over time. Scenario 3, direct confrontation. A military conflict could destabilize the region, disrupt global oil supplies, and have catastrophic consequences for all involved. This remains the least desirable but not impossible outcome. The implications of Iran's next moves extend far beyond its borders. The Strait of Hormuz, through which 1/5 of the world's oil passes, is a potential flashpoint. Any disruption here could send global energy markets into turmoil. Moreover, the geopolitical chessboard is not just about power, it's also about people. Protests within Iran reflect growing dissatisfaction, while regional instability displaces millions and strains global humanitarian efforts. Iran's geopolitical chessboard is a complex game where every move reverberates across the globe. From its alliances with China and Russia to its regional influence, Tehran has shown it is not a passive player. But the question remains, can diplomacy prevail, or are we heading towards a breaking point? The stakes are high, and the world is watching.